In this part of the series, I'm going to try and rig the character. In the last series, I did it all manually because I think it's great to know how to rig manually before you start using any automated tools. The automated tools are fantastic if they work perfectly. But if they don't, then how do you go back and fix anything? So you need to kind of know the fundamentals before you can actually troubleshoot anything on an automated rigging system. So for this character, I think what I'd like to do is use the Rigify add-on. It's been a while since I've used it. There have been a few updates since then, so I thought I'd take a look at it. The first thing you may need to do is add the add-on, install the add-on. So let's go over here to File, User Preferences, and in this window, let's click on the Add-ons button, and I'm going to type in Rigify. There it is. You should come up with this entry here. Now, mine is already checked, but if yours isn't, you just need to add a check mark here, and then click Save User Settings. And then we should be good to go. So before we add the Rigify rig into the scene, let's make sure that the character is prepared for rigging. I'm going to hit the N key, and let's go take a look at the transforms here. It turns out that my transforms look pretty good. I've got zeros in location, zeros in rotation, and ones in scale, and that's pretty good. My guess is that he's going to be too big. This is about 25 meters tall here. So when the Rigify rig comes in, it's going to be a lot smaller, and that's fine. We can shrink him down. If your transforms aren't zeros and ones over here, you can always select the character and press Control A and apply the location, and then press Control A again and apply the rotation and scale, and that will get all of these back to their zeros and ones. Now let me take a look at the eyes here. I've got eyes separate from the head or the main body, so it looks like that's all zeros and ones. That's all zeros and ones. Okay, so it looks like that's pretty good. All right, so let's go ahead and create the armature. If I come over here to the Create tab and I scroll down and I click Armature, all I'm going to get is a single bone. So if I click this, you can see if I zoom in way down here, I'll hit the period key on the numpad, and if we zoom in, all we get is just one bone, and that's certainly the way you want to begin when you're doing it manually, but that's not going to help us a whole lot. So I'm going to undo this with the controller Command Z. What we need to do instead of using the Create tab is use Shift A. So to add the rig, I'll press Shift A and I'll choose Armature. And here's that single bone. Here's the Rigify rig, and here's the new Pitchipoi rig. Now I haven't used this yet. I think it was added as an option in version 2.74, I believe. And it includes facial rig as well. But we don't need that because this character really wasn't set up to open a mouth or blink or anything. So I'm just going to go ahead and use the Rigify add-on. So I'll click Human Meta Rig, and there we go. And you notice that, yes, sure enough, the rig is really tiny. So it's way down here. So this is actually more reasonably sized in terms of real-world scale. The Blender units are really pretty much meters. If we come over here to, I believe, the world, no, how about the scene here? There we go. If we come over to the scene, you can see that in the units field, we've got metric units and imperial or inches and feet. So if we go from the Blender units here to metric, you can see that nothing really changes. It's just 1.9 meters. If we change to imperial, then the grid gets a little smaller. Things change a little bit, but the difference between meters and Blender units is pretty much nothing. So this is probably a good size to make our character if we're going to take it into a game engine. All right, so what I'm going to do now is scale my character down to fit that rig. I'm going to go ahead and select the low poly character as well as the eyes, and I'm going to change the center of pivot from the median point to the 3D cursor, and just to make sure we're scaling from that point down there at the center of the grid. And I'll just scale everything down until I get it about the right size. So let me come to wireframe with the Z key, and let me scale down a little bit more. Something like that. Now if I select the rig and come over to the object display, I can turn on X-ray here and see it through the character. Now I'll hit the 3 key and the 5 key to go to orthographic view, and I'll take this character as well as the eyes. I'll switch back to median point, and I'll drag the character forward just a little bit, something like that. I think that'll work. Now once I've moved this character, I'm going to have to now re-establish the center. But I think moving this forward just a little bit will save me some headache in setting up the rig. Just trying to center up the hips and the neck along the side of the character here. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, so if I select the character now, I need to move this back into the center of the grid. Move this origin point back to the center. So I'll just go to Tools and Set Origin, and I'll say Origin to 3D Cursor. And that'll pop that back into the center. And I'll do the same with the eyes. I'll select these and put those into the center as well. Now we need to make sure that our scale and our rotation and our location are all zeroed out. So we've got zeros in the location and the rotation, but not in the scale. So I'm going to press, actually I'll select all of these here, and I'll press Control A, and let's apply the scale. There we go, that's what we want. So now if I select the character, we can see that he's 1.9 meters tall. The transformations are all zeros and ones, and that's good. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is get these joints in place. So I'll select the rig, go to the front view here, and it looks like I've still got my image there, and look how big it is. Let me scroll down and turn off or get rid of this image here. There we go. We don't need that. Alright, so now that we've got the general shape or the general proportion of the character correct, let's go ahead and tab into edit mode for the rig here. And what we need to do is come over here to the options tab and turn on X mirror. And what that'll do is that will allow us to move these joints around and have the other side come along. So now what we need to do is actually just move these around until they're in the proper place. Now this is going to take a little time, not too bad though. I'm going to go ahead and start moving these back like this. And if I go into wireframe and I'm going to press the Control key and click and drag, I can select all of these joints and move them back a bit. I'll select this and move it up to where the ankle should be. And maybe these here. And move those forward to where the toe should be. So I'm just going to move this up to about the ball of the toe. And then I'm going to move this toe forward all the way like this. I need to know where that edge is. So what I'm going to do is go back to object mode and select the character. And I'm going to come over here to the object panel and turn on wires so that I can see where the edges are. So now if I go back to the rig, I can begin lining up these joints where the edges are that I want things to bend at. So I want this foot to bend at that edge, so I'm going to put that joint right there. The same thing applies up here for this joint. I need to figure out where the knee's going to bend, and it looks like it's going to bend at this joint, so I'll put it right there. Now also notice there's a bit of a bend in the leg here. When we turn on IK, inverse kinematics, that will allow us to grab one control at the foot here and move the whole leg around. And it needs to know which way the default bend is going to be. If we put this chain exactly straight, it's going to be a 50-50 chance as to which way the computer is going to bend the leg. And if it bends it backwards, it's going to be painful. So we want to put a bit of a bend in that joint to make sure that Blender knows which way we want it to bend. All right, I'm going to get this right here. Let's come out to the front now and make sure everything's in place here. Once again, I'll hit the Z key to go into wireframe, and I'll control click and drag this and just drag all these over so they're lined up with the foot. There we go. Let's think about this. Are these hips in the proper place? They don't seem to be. It seems to me like this whole bone can come down to about where the waist is, and it seems like these should be able to come down as well, down to where the hip would be, the hip joint to the leg. That feels like it's a little bit better. All right, so how about this joint? Where is it? It's lining up along this edge here. That's not bad. I like that. Now for the arms, it looks like I could grab this whole chain here, like so, and maybe bring this whole thing down to kind of where that shoulder joint would be. I could maybe rotate it a hair and bring that down like this. I'm just trying to place that shoulder joint right in there. Now if I select these, I can move these down a bit. I'll see if I can grab these bones here and start moving them into the hand. This is probably the most tedious part, is getting all the hand joints in place, or all the finger joints in place. I'm just trying to get this joint right on the edge right here at the wrist. I think what I'm going to do is try and select these bones here and maybe scale them up just a hair so they're a little bit bigger, so they fit into the hand a little bit better, maybe a little bit more, something like that. There we go. So now I've got to go through and align each of these joints up with the fingers, and it takes a while, so I'll do that off camera here. So what we'll do in the next video is, once all the joints are in place, we'll go back to object mode and come over here to the armature panel, and we're going to click generate down here in the Rigify panel, and we'll see how it works. Ooh.